All right. Thank you for being here. My name is Alan Savage. I'm the co-founder and chief operating officer for Funded Justice. And this is probably going to be a little different than any presentation you guys had to sit through. Because we're not trying to sell you anything. We're actually just trying to give you money. Well, that's a good thing, right? So Funded Justice is a Chicago-based startup. And our whole mission is to help individuals raise money to hire private attorneys. That's it. And so we do this through a process called crowdfunding. And so crowdfunding is basically you set up a campaign online, and then we give you the tools and resources to send it out to social media to raise funds and awareness for that issue. So this is our team. Michael Helfand, he's the CEO. He's an attorney. He's an experienced entrepreneur. He's co-founder of Craft House Cocktails. He also runs a attorney referral service. That's me in the middle. You'll hear more about me in a minute. And then Jessica Dennis, she's our social media director. She's been highlighted in Huffington Post, League Daily, AOL, just all over the internet. She's a gifted writer. And she really has her pulse on what's trending in social media. So we use her to get our message out about different campaigns and things we're doing out there. So this is me. So I have a little different background from most of the people in the legal startup world. So right out of Northwestern with a degree in like finance and decision science, I did the typical MBA thing. Went to hedge funds, then I managed the family office for the founder of Weight Watchers. I left there, and then I went to a startup called CapEx. And CapEx is the largest education lead provider in the United States. So normally a high school senior would apply to a college. We turned the model around, we had colleges applying to high school senior. And then after that, I was the chief marketing officer for Guaranteed Sales Online. So basically, if you had a product, it was offline only. We created an online presence, not afford $400 for a turn in an emergency without selling something or borrowing money. That's tragic, right? So I mentioned that Mike, he runs this attorney referral network. He would follow up with the other attorneys that he referred these late cases to. And more often than not, the conversation went like this. You know, how was that client I sent over? Good person, good case, did not afford their attorney. So I sent them out to the bar, sent them to a legal aid organization, and 90% of the time, they knew nothing was going to happen, right? They didn't have the resources there, they didn't handle that type of case, nothing was going to be done. So Mike thought about this for a while, because after you talk to thousands of attorneys in different cases, just trying to find a solution for this, came with this crowdfunding. But I want to highlight how we're different from other crowdfunding platforms out there that you've probably heard of. The campaigns on our site, if you were to try to put those on another crowdfunding platform, and there's any negative press or publicity about them, they'll get canceled and they refund all the donations back to the supporters. So there was a case where a police officer was involved in a shooting. He created a campaign on another platform. Within 24 hours, he raised $100,000 for his defense. He got some negative publicity about it, canceled it, refunded all the money. So now this police officer was rather than trying to find other places to set up the platform and raise money. And crowdfunding is tough. There's nothing easy about it. So it's hard to get people to donate the first time. It's even harder to get them to donate the second time. So what we say is that if the campaign is live on our platform and it's a legitimate campaign, we're not taking it down for any reason. So this is the steps of what crowdfunding looks like. The individual comes to our site, they create a campaign, a description of the problem, they can have pictures, videos, what's going on. Then they tell their friends, family, supporters to share it on social media. We also share it through our channels, and depending on the campaign, we'll contact journalists, bloggers, high influencers to try to get the message out. The money is electronically transferred into the attorney's account or into the campaign owner's account, depending on how it's set up. What we're really excited about is this feature we just added a couple weeks ago. We have the ability for a lawyer, a law firm, organization to set up a mini landing page on Funded Justice to create their own crowdfunding campaigns. So if you're an attorney, imagine a situation, someone comes to your office, would love to hire you, they can't afford it, send them to your branded page on Funded Justice, and it's the same steps. They'll create the campaign, they'll share it with their friends and family, we share it, we try to raise money so that they can hire you. Yes?
So, what do the people who are giving money get in return?
Nothing.
They don't get a tax deduction?
No. The people that donate are people that are usually friends, family, supporters, or people who've been in a similar situation or feel strongly about that issue. So, I'm a divorced dad, my wife's trying to keep the kids away from me. Hey, I was in that same situation, here's $20, help you fight your legal battle. And that's what we do.
People just give that money.
Yeah, it gets better.
You should go
Yeah.
GoFundMe.
No, I know, I've seen it, but usually on, well, I guess, some of these sites, you get auction, you get a service, you
Yeah.
get a product,
No.
but these are.
They
just-
do it because people feel strongly about these issues and they want to affect change. And there's a lot of people online that are social warriors, right? That are on Twitter, Facebook,
Right.
letting their expressions be heard. But this is a way for them to actually affect a real change. Because a lot of times change has to happen through the courts. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. So on these many landing pages that a lawyer or law firm can set up, you can set up right here, which shows, the description of the law firm. You have live links back into your website to help you for SEO. At the top, you see where it says fundedjustice.com/Omega Law Centers. We can do a customized URL also. So if you're Chicago defense attorney, we can fundedjustice.com/Chicago defense attorney. So that'll help you in SEO. It even gets better than this. So we share these campaigns out. The person who has the campaign shares them out. Every time the message goes out, your marketing message goes with it. Information about the campaign, and then information about your law firm or your organization goes out with it. These campaigns are shared, thousands of times. So you'll get a lot of links back in. You'll get social media presence. You get reach on things that you probably wouldn't get. The average person who creates a campaign, they have 300 friends on Facebook, 200 followers on Twitter. So you have 300 people who probably have never heard of your law firm and now can see your marketing message just because someone created a campaign on our site.
And what do you get for it?
We'll get to that. The only thing we ask is if you're going to use a branded URL where it says, like Chicago Criminal Defense, that you have a link back to our site with that keyword or a similar keyword. If you say, Alan, we don't want to link back to any site, that's just not what we do. You can still do the page here, it's just the URL would be fundedjustice.com/ and some letters and numbers. Make sense? So this is what campaigns look like. So this is a national campaign. So the DARPA pipeline. We raised almost $3 million in under 200 days for protesters who are trying to stop this pipeline from going through North Dakota. But let's say that you're an organizational law firm that's more local. Here we have a student who was arrested for at a Trump event, right? So raised $10,000 so he can hire an attorney and have a defense. And so people feel, you ask, like, what do they get? There's a lot of people who feel strongly about this issue, right? Maybe they didn't go to the event, maybe they were on the site, and they joined $10, $20, and it adds up. If you go to our homepage on Funded Justice, you'll get an idea of some of the different campaigns we work on. So we handle just about every area of legal except for bankruptcy at this time, and a lot of social justice issues. So if you work with an organization that has a social justice bent to it, we can try to work with that. So, being a startup, one of the things that we do is we get out of the office, we try to talk to the people who use the product to figure out what they need. We want to build what they need. So I talk to a lot of attorneys, and they tell me the same thing. They spend a lot of money on pay-per-click, search engine optimization, other marketing. People will come to them and have no intention of hiring them because they can't afford it. They just want free legal advice. And so before, that attorney had no option. Send them to the bar, send them to a legal aid. Now you have an option. If you create a branded page on Funded Justice, you could send that person to your branded page on Funded Justice, and the process is exactly the same. They create the campaign, they share it with friends and supporters, we share it, raise money, and you get paid. This slide, there's 3 things that I really want you to take out from this one. The first is a partner with a crowdfunding platform called Fundraiser. They're the 3rd largest crowdfunding platform in the world. They raised $100 million in a lot of different verticals. The second is most attorneys do not have a strong social media presence for whatever reason. Only 23% of attorneys have Twitter for business, right? And the third is that social media is hard, it takes time, and you never know if you're getting any return for the time and dollars you're spending doing it. So don't do it. Let us do it. Send clients here, they create the campaign, it's pushed out on Twitter and Facebook automatically. You'll get links, you'll get social media mentions, and it'll help you. Say that but true, Google does not care about you. some of the highest paid keywords are in the legal space. So keywords over $100. 97% of Google's revenue comes from AdWords. So let's say that you just want to filter down. I'm just focused on Chicago areas. Chicago criminal defense. Here the keywords go from $50 to $90. It's still expensive. If you're paying that kind of money for a keyword and that person can't afford you and had no intention of paying you, it's wasted money. You have better options. What about SEO? I want my website to rank on the first page. Chicago criminal defense. Here it shows it's 43 out of 100. So 100 is the most competitive search terms to rank for nationally. 43 is a challenge, it's not impossible. But if you look at it, if you had multiple campaigns on funded justice, all of these links going out on social media, Twitter, Facebook, that will help you try to rank for these words. Especially if you had a branded URL on our site. Point of view, Chicago criminal defense, you point back to us, Chicago criminal defense, you have a good chance of breaking the top 5. We're the answer. So we solved the poor lead quality. People call you and can't afford you. We help raise money. We solved the social media problem, or if you don't have a social media account, we push it out like I mentioned here. The average person who creates a campaign has 300 friends on Facebook, and it goes out. You get free links back on your master account, and it's free for attorneys. So if you're an attorney organization or whatever, it doesn't cost you to create this. It doesn't cost the person who's raising funds any money, right? You just have to get paid. And your question was, what's in it for us? So we have the typical crowdfunding model. So we take a small percentage of the funds raised. So we take 7% of the funds raised for our operating costs. Okay. All right. Any questions? Yeah.
So I know websites like GoFundMe or Kickstarter, you know, you can just go on it and make something by yourself, you know, or, because this is sort of like backed by attorneys, do you need like sort of attorney sponsor or firm, or can people just create their own and choose a law firm?
That's a great question. So let me take a step back. So I mentioned earlier that we do a lot of experiments. So one of the experiments we did is, will an attorney create a campaign for a client to raise money for it? So we did it for a law firm in Oregon. He raised $100,000 for a case. Then we did it a couple other times focusing for the attorney. What we found out is if there's proof on the campaign, so you get documents from your attorney or the courthouse or whatever that shows it's a valid campaign. If you get friends and family to support you initially, so it gives you social proof, it's a lot easier to raise money for. And then with like GoFundMe and these other crowdfunding platforms, these type of cases probably would not be allowed on there, right? So if they were to make it through their filter and get onboarded, if there's any issues with it, they could cancel the refund of the funds.
So you do need an attorney?
You don't need an attorney. You could, for us, it's enough that you have a legal issue. And we do not select the attorney for you. We think it's up to you to pick the attorney that's best for your case. So you can pick it. But if a law firm said, hey, we want the money to go to our account for this, we can set it up that way also. Yeah.
What about, let's say you do raise 100 and they only use 40, and it's for legal use, right? Only legal use, what happens to the rest of the money?
See, that's a great question because we cannot keep track of it after it goes to that attorney. So let's say that we raised 100, and a lot of times, these cases, unfortunately, if the other side knows you have an attorney and resources, and more willing to negotiate. So maybe you only had to go through 40 of the 100 you raised. So we don't know, we can't do anything with that.
You don't control.
We don't control that. No.
Attorney piece of it.
Well, it's a great question, because if it goes to an attorney's account, there's certain rules that attorney has to follow as far as.
Exactly. You can't keep it.
He can't keep it, so he has to actually do work for that. So I don't know his relationship with the client, so that's outside what we do.
Of course, then the question is, what's the client do if they get the money back?
Right.
Yeah.
Lawyer has no responsibility for that. The client, like, hey, I raised 800, I used 40, I got 760 back, party time.
It's possible. But that's not anything online, anything constantly. Any questions?
Yeah, just develop a new business.
There you go. That's a good one. No? Yeah, I told you we do 4 hours a month. You guys are all worried.
Oh, this is
This
it.
is it. This is it.
So, do you have
So there's a flyer. If you have any information, contact me. They'll love to work with
So
you.
you charge us to have your own
Thank you.
field.
No, no.
Thank you.
You help us do them, you raise money for something just.
Yeah, so usually what happens is an attorney will already have a website, and they can either copy and paste information from the website onto our platform. That's usually what they do. If you need some help, we can help you with that.
And I guess it would be up to us to screen the client enough to know that they're legit when you put it up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you don't get involved in it, just trying to figure out if there's any liability or harm. We find out that the person's quick and just trying to raise money. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, what you could do is you could just send the client to Fund of Justice as an individual. They'd raise the money, and you can keep track, okay, when they got to $5,000, I'll reach back out to them, because you have all their information. And usually it's when the attorney creates the campaign on our site, they've already talked to that person, they've already got a lot of work invested, they know it's a legitimate campaign.